Most textbooks never mention his name, but at Bunker Hill, in one of the bloodiest battles of the Revolution, one man stood above the rest. He was born enslaved, he bought his own freedom, then he walked straight into hell for a country that barely saw him as human. This is Salem Poor. Salem Poor was born enslaved on a farm in Andover, Massachusetts. At about 22 years old, he did something almost nobody in his position could do. He bought his freedom, paying roughly a year's wages to own his own life. Most people would have disappeared into quiet work. Salem Poor, he walked into a war. In 1775, he enlisted in a Massachusetts regiment and marched to Breed's Hill. The British came in waves. First attack, pushed back. Second attack, pushed back again. By the third, the Patriots were almost out of ammo. In that chaos, Salem Poor fought so fiercely that officers later said he behaved like an experienced officer. Not a private, not a rookie, an officer. Legend says Salem Poor shot and killed a high-ranking British officer in the middle of the battle, Lieutenant Colonel James Abercrombie. But everyone agrees on one thing. Whatever Salem Poor did that day was so extraordinary, it burned into people's memories. Months later, 14 officers from his regiment sent a formal petition to the Massachusetts legislature. They wrote that Salem Poor behaved like an experienced officer and that in him centered a brave and gallant soldier. Of all the men at Bunker Hill, no one else got that kind of written praise. No medals, no publicity, just ink on paper. That history decided to misplace for 200 years. Bunker Hill wasn't the end for Salem Poor. He went on to serve in campaigns at White Plains, Saratoga, Monmouth, and even suffered the brutality of Valley Forge. The man didn't just have a heroic moment. He had a heroic career in an army that still wasn't sure it wanted men like him. Salem Poor bought his own freedom. Then he fought for a nation that wouldn't truly fight for his. No statue in every city, no chapter in every textbook, just a forgotten name, and a petition from 14 officers who saw what he really was, a brave and gallant soldier, a man who stood tall at Bunker Hill when the world expected him to stay invisible. If stories like this hit you in the gut, you're exactly where you belong. This is Hidden Hero Hub, where the giants history buried finally get their spotlight. Stick around. The next hero's story goes even harder.